Today we're going to learn how you can improve your listening strategies in Spanish, or really in pretty much any language that you're learning. And there's a couple different ways that you can practice your listening. You can do it independently, or if you have a partner to practice with, then you can do it that way too. And each one has its advantages, which I'm going to share with you guys. And you'll be able to use these skills right away so that you can improve your listening of overall comprehension, as well as listening to details and each word in a sentence. So we're going to look overall, and then we're also going to look in depth into listening. If you are practicing listening on your own, you want to try to immerse yourself in the language as much as possible. I know you guys have probably heard this over and over again. Immerse yourself in the language, listen to music, watch TV, watch movies, use subtitles, look up lyrics. Yes, do all of these things, but we're going to get a little more in depth into how you can use some of these and some other resources for your listening skills. So in addition to these, you might also try audiobooks. These are a great way to practice your listening as well, and you can use them with your favorite Spanish short story or novel, even if you're at a more advanced level in your Spanish studies. Or if you're maybe not ready for a short story or a novel, you might even try children's books in Spanish. So even if you're at a beginning level, you can try children's books in Spanish to practice your listening. And if you have a partner to practice your Spanish with, you can do so much more, because you can have that person read to you, like have them read a paragraph from one of the short stories that preferably from one of the short stories that you have not yet read, because then you will really be practicing your listening. And even just a sentence or words that you can listen to practice your dictation. So we're going to do an example of this now in this video, so you can see exactly what I'm talking about and how this strategy works. So I have an excerpt here from a short story in a bilingual reader. So it's a book where you can find a story that is in Spanish and then is translated into English as well. So you read a page in Spanish, and then there's a translation in English, and then a page in Spanish, and then a translation in English. So I really recommend using one of these type of books if you are at an intermediate level of Spanish. And I'm going to leave a link to this book down below in the description bar in case you guys are interested in some reading materials that you can use to practice your Spanish. So we're just going to read the first paragraph of it as a listening exercise. And if you are interested in the rest of it, then you'll have the information down below. So this story is called, and I'm going to be looking down here at my tablet. I prefer to read on my computer as opposed to having a physical book. So I'm going to be looking here at my screen. So the story that we're going to read is a very long title, so bear with me. It's called De lo que aconteció a un mancebo que se casó con una mujer muy fuerte y muy brava. Very long title. Y está escrito por Don Juan Manuel. Vamos a leer el primer párrafo. We're going to read the first paragraph of this, and what I would like you to do is listen to overall. So don't focus so much on each word. Just try to absorb as much as you can about the context, the overall meaning. So if there are one or two words in there that you don't understand, don't worry. You can still get the overall meaning of this. Hace muchos años vivía en una aldea un moro que tenía un hijo único. Este mancebo era tan bueno como su padre, pero ambos eran muy pobres. Y en aquella misma aldea vivía otro moro, también muy bueno, pero además rico. Y era padre de una hija que era todo lo contrario del mancebo ya mencionado. Mientras que el joven era fino, de muy buenas maneras, ella era grosera y tenía mal genio. Nadie quería casarse con aquel diablo. So what I want you to do now is think about what you read, and if you were doing this listening exercise, you might even need to hear it a few different times. So feel free to replay the reading of the video if you need to hear it again, and try to explain in Spanish, if you can, what it meant, or you can write it so you can practice your speaking or your writing. And this is looking at your overall comprehension of what you hear while you're listening. So before we continue, I wanted to read the story one more time for you guys and add the subtitles on so that you can read it. For the purposes of a listening exercise, I would not use the subtitles. I would not read it while you are listening to it because you should be focusing on just listening. So it's best if you don't have subtitles while you are trying to see how much you can understand just by listening. But so that you guys can see what I'm reading in this video and you can know what the story is, I'm gonna add subtitles on for this part. Hace muchos años vivía en una aldea un moro quien tenía un hijo único. Este mancebo era tan como su padre, pero ambos eran pobres. En aquella misma aldea vivía otro moro, también muy bueno, pero además rico. Y era padre de una hija que era todo lo contrario del mancebo ya mencionado. Mientras que el joven era fino, de muy buenas maneras, ella era grosera y tenía mal genio. Nadie quería casarse con aquel diablo. Alright, so now you can see the subtitles so you can kind of follow along a little bit better if your Spanish is at a lower to intermediate level. And the English translation to this as well, if you are curious, it is many years ago there lived in a certain village a Moor who had an only son. This young man was as good as his father, but they were both very poor. In that same village there lived another Moor who was also very good, but rich besides, and he was the father of a daughter who was completely unlike that youth. While the young man was courteous and had the best of manners, she was cruel and had a wicked temper. No one wanted to marry that devil. So this is the English version of that story that you can find in the Dual Language Reader book of stories. And if you wanted to practice specifically understanding each word or understanding the difference between the sounds in with the accents and without, or just being able to hear each word in a sentence, you could read one sentence and then write down each word. So if I read the first sentence, hace muchos años vivía en una aldea un moro quien tenía un hijo único. Hace muchos años vivía en una aldea un moro quien tenía un hijo único. Then you would write down each word as I was reading it. You would just write down each of the words that you can understand. And you can do this, you can have it read a few times and write it all down, and then you would compare with what was read how well you wrote it down. So this is something that you could use like an audiobook or a song or something like that for if you didn't have someone to read it to you, and you could still practice these techniques. So you can do this with an entire sentence this way, or you can use just specific words. So you can look at el acento diacrítico, and you can even use the phrase el acento diacrítico and try to write that down where the emphasis is in the diacrítico. It's in the ítico, right? And so you could practice writing that down. And for those of you who don't know maybe what el acento diacrítico is, it is two words that are distinguished by an accent. So like hablo and habló. The habló one with the accent, that is in the past tense, third person of hablar. And then the habló, that's first person, present tense of hablar. So you can also use this strategy to practice el acento diacrítico in Spanish. Alright, so I hope that you guys found this useful for practicing your listening skills. If you have any other topics that you would like me to cover, either in Spanish or learning strategies, please let me know in the comments down below, and I will do my best to make those videos for you guys. Nos vemos la próxima vez. Ciao!